Hi everyone, and welcome back to a new video regarding my Ender 3 over there. Today I want to talk about some issues regarding modeling with Autodesk Fusion 360, utilizing a new firmware on Octoprint called Klipper. So I want to talk about that along with some issues I've had with that. So let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to dive into is Klipper. Klipper is a 3D printer firmware that runs it runs on a Raspberry Pi, so it pretty much offloads the processing and kinematic equations from your 8-bit underpowered board here and uses your Raspberry Pi to do that. So what this does, it allows a higher precision of your stepper motor movements, and it also allows you to print at a lot higher speeds without sacrificing quality. So I've actually gotten up speeds to maybe 120 to even 150 millimeters per second on my prints, rather than going about slow at 40 millimeters per second. And here's a few examples of what that looks like. I'll dive into the configuration a little bit, but I printed these test cubes here so we can see what that looks like. So I believe I printed this at about 200 millimeters a second. Now, I don't know if you can really see in this video, but if you look at the four corners of this cube, you can see there's some blobbing in the corners. So with that speed you get from this firmware, you actually get, when the print head slows down and decelerates into the corners, it releases pressure from the extruder and ends up blobbing when it makes a 90-degree turn. So that actually brings me into my next problem, where I was designing a box for my brother who's creating some sort of electrical component to put in here. I don't know, just something funny I just designed on Fusion 360. But one thing that you can notice if you look in closely here, yeah, I've been messing around with this print, but these little holes, these are supposed to be little air vent slots that I designed. They're all filled up due to that blobbing issue I'm having. So what I had to do was go in Klipper. Now if you're interested in Klipper firmware and printing a lot faster at higher quality, a lot of that, the configuration setting out in here, I can go over in a little bit. But if you're interested in how to set that up, please let me know. I can definitely make a video on how to do that. So yeah, this is pretty much what it looks like base. Simple, a lot of blobbing going on, so I had to solve that because my prints were turning out horribly. So I went ahead and started using this setting called Pressure Advance, which will actually release pressure or retract a little bit of filament in the corners when the print head goes in. But as you can see, I'm getting a little bit of under extrusion in the corners, so I was having that problem. And yeah, you can definitely see in the corners, solved the blobbing issue, but a lot of under extrusion. So, and then that brought me to my next problem, where I solved that issue, but then when I started printing something else, so this was supposed to be an iPhone stand along with AirPods, my infill was not connecting to the perimeter walls. So I had to solve that problem, and that was the result of the max acceleration being too high. So I was using the stock settings on Klipper. Klipper integrates directly within Octoprint, so that's a great feature of that. But yeah, my infill was not connecting to the perimeter, so I couldn't really make anything there. But then again, I just decreased the max acceleration by a lot, increased the pressure advance value by a lot, and I can talk more about that if people are interested in that. So I'm not using Marlin firmware anymore. I decided to go a different route with Klipper because it's just more forward thinking, and it utilizes the Raspberry Pi to get faster and more precise stepper movements rather than your crappy 8-bit board in there. So yeah, this is my final test little square here, X and Y, as you can tell. If we go look, actually let's go look at the previous ones here. It's kind of hard to see, but this is my first try. As you can see, there's a lot of blobbing. You can just tell on the borders there. My second try obviously eliminated most blobbing, but then again, some under extrusion on the top. There we go, there it gets in focus. And then here's my final one I made. Everything's looking pretty good. So I went ahead and got my settings down, and I went ahead and printed a successful print of this box. It's actually being worked on right now. I actually just moved into college, so that's why I haven't made a video in a while. Just moved into a new house. But yeah, let's go over this firmware. So what this firmware does is it runs directly off your Raspberry Pi. I just have a plugin installed within Octoprint, and you can set your max acceleration, your velocity, and that kind of thing, and that's exactly what I was messing with. But these main settings I was messing with was this pressure advance value. That's pretty much decides how much filament to retract when your print head comes within a 90-degree turn, and that's the issue I was messing with there. But thankfully I solved that, as you can tell with this print, and now I'm getting super fast prints at about 120 millimeters per second with no blobbing or under extrusion at all, so that's great. Okay, so I know I've just been showing you all the settings I changed and what I've been through to get to where I am, but one thing I did not show was how many tries it literally took me to get to where I was. So I went through so much plastic and so much different setting changes to get to where I was. So I remember I just showed the issue with the lack of infill over there, and again these 3 different cubes with the different settings, but I've printed maybe, oh my gosh, 20 of these to get the blobbing and the proper infill setting. So the infill was connecting, lower the acceleration for that, and obviously use the pressure advance value when decreasing blobbing. But that's another reason why I haven't put out a video in a long time, is I've gone through, let's get this out of the way. So you can tell my trash can is full of plastic parts that I've been trying to work on and solve just to get my settings right. So if you are interested in the configuration file I have, so you don't have to waste plastic like I did, let me know. Can definitely share it with you. So yeah, now I have a great looking result. Yeah, took me a while to get there, but glad it worked out. So another thing I want to touch on is designing items within Autodesk Fusion 360. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it. It's free to use software if you're a hobbyist or if you go to college like myself. So this box is, what this does is it's an enclosure for an electronic system that sends out pulses to, like Christmas lights, for example, based on frequency of sounds. So the more I guess sound is passed through, I don't know, I'm not an electrical engineer by any means, but my brother built this box thing that pulses Christmas lights, so I just decided to model an enclosure. Anyways, I highly recommend individuals get involved with modeling your own parts. It's really fun, really a cool way to make stuff, and this pattern here was actually really simple to make. Just did a rectangular pattern. These side ones were a little bit more challenging since there's a little bit more drawing involved, but overall really cool process, and it's really cool seeing your parts come to life even if they fail. And obviously this is an old design and I screwed up right here. We can see the dimensions aren't the same, but really neat nonetheless. And also I tried designing, a calibration model where I was trying to solve my blobbing issue on these really tight corners. So yeah, use modeling to your advantage instead of trying to download stuff off Thingiverse. Really cool to do something yourself and watch something you made work. Always fun to do. So yeah, that's about it regarding the Klipper firmware and modeling within Fusion 360. If you want me to go through the setup of how I got Klipper, or maybe show an example of it running at high speeds, I'd be more than happy to go do that. So thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful, and I can definitely talk more about the Klipper firmware in the future. So see you next time.